You know how we rely on our vision for well, pretty much everything?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Reading, driving, recognizing faces, even just enjoying a beautiful sunset.
Right.
It's such a fundamental part of our
It
lives.
is.
And today we're diving deep into a rare genetic eye disorder that robs people of that central vision.
Okay.
It's called Stargardt disease. Our listeners, they're a short bunch, wanted to know more about it. It's not exactly a household name, but it affects about 1 in 10,000 people in the U.S. alone.
Yeah, that's a significant number.
Mm.
And it's a number worth talking about. Stargardt disease, it specifically affects the macula.
And the macula, that's like the bullseye of your retina.
Exactly. It's the central part responsible for all that sharp, detailed vision.
The kind of vision we need to read, recognize faces.
Exactly. And what happens with Stargardt is there's this buildup of a fatty material called lipofuscin.
Lipofuscin. Okay, so is that kind of like, I don't know, imagine a frying pan that's been used a million times. You get that stubborn layer of grease that never seems to come off completely?
That's actually a great analogy. Because with Stargardt, this lipofuscin, it accumulates on the macula.
And it just keeps building up.
Yeah, interfering with how those photoreceptor cells in your eye function, leading to blurry patches, distorted vision, sometimes even difficulty distinguishing colors.
Oh, wow. So it's like someone slowly turning down the resolution on your vision. That's going to be tough. And I noticed in the research they sometimes call it juvenile macular dystrophy. That sounds kind of intense. Does it usually show up in kids then?
It often does, yeah. A lot of times the first signs appear during childhood, somewhere between 6 and 12 years old.
Wow, so young.
It can be really tough because that's such a crucial time for development, learning to read, playing sports, socializing.
Absolutely. Having your vision deteriorate at that age, it just makes the stakes feel even higher.
Right. And, it's not just limited to childhood either. Stargardts can emerge in early adulthood too, so it's something to be aware of throughout life, really.
And that makes early detection so important, right? Like, even if there isn't a cure yet, knowing early on can make a huge difference. So let's talk about those early signs. What should people be on the lookout for, especially parents? Maybe they don't even have this condition on their radar.
Absolutely, and you're right. Those early signs, they can be subtle. We've talked about that gradual loss of central vision, things appearing blurry or distorted, maybe some shadowy spots right in the middle of your vision.
So you might not even realize anything's wrong at first.
Exactly. It can be really sneaky like that. Imagine looking at a clock. Someone with Stargardt disease might see the numbers around the edge of the clock face just fine, but the hands in the center, those might be blurry.
Or like trying to focus on someone's face, you might be aware of the person standing there, but their features are unclear.
Exactly. It's that central vision that's primarily affected. And you brought up some other interesting symptoms we found in the research, that difficulty adjusting to different light levels, for example.
Yeah, that one really surprised me. It's not just about blurry vision, is it? It's like your whole visual system is struggling to adapt.
Exactly. So think about walking from a bright hallway into a dimly lit room.
Yeah.
For most people, their eyes adjust pretty quickly.
Right.
But for someone with Stargardt disease, that transition, it can be slow, disorienting even.
Wow, so everyday things like, I don't know, going to the movies or driving at night could become a real challenge?
Absolutely. And then there's the potential for color blindness too.
Right, right. It's not a guarantee with Stargardt's, but it is a possibility.
And it makes sense if you think about it. Those photoreceptor cells we talked about, they're responsible for detecting color. So if they're being damaged, well, color vision can definitely be affected.
It all connects, and we've been talking about the visual symptoms, but this can't be easy emotionally either.
You're absolutely right, and the research backs that up. There's actually an increased risk of depression and anxiety in individuals with Stargardt disease.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense when you think about the impact on daily life, the uncertainty of it all.
Absolutely. It's a lot to deal with, and it highlights how important it is to consider the whole person, not just their vision.
For sure. So let's say someone is experiencing some of these symptoms. What happens next? What does the diagnostic process actually look like?
So it usually starts with a visit to an ophthalmologist, that's an eye doctor, specializing in diagnosing and treating eye conditions.
Okay.
And they'll likely start with a dilated eye exam.
Okay, so for those of us who maybe haven't had the pleasure of a dilated eye exam, break that down for us.
So they basically give your pupils a temporary zoom lens, if you will. They'll put some special drops in your eyes, make your pupils widen, and that lets them get a really good look at the back of your eye.
So it's like giving your eye doctor a backstage pass to see what's going on.
Exactly. They're looking for those telltale signs, that buildup of lipofuscin on the macula, for example. And sometimes they might even inject a special dye into your arm. Sounds kind of wild, I know. But it helps them visualize the blood vessels.
Wait, hold on. Inject dye into your arm. How does that work?
It's called fluorescein angiography. And it's pretty cool, actually. This dye, it travels up to your eye, and then they use a special camera to take pictures as it moves through the blood vessels in your retina.
Wow, so they can actually see the blood flowing in real time.
Pretty much. It helps them see if there are any blockages or abnormalities, which can be a sign of Stargardt disease.
Technology is amazing.
It really is. And beyond that, there are other tests they might run too. Electroretinography, or ERG, measures how well your retina responds to light.
So they're making sure those photoreceptors, those light-sensing cells, are firing correctly.
Exactly. And then there's the visual field test, kind of maps out your entire field of vision, highlights any areas where you have blurry vision or blind spots.
It sounds like they're really trying to get a complete picture of what's going on.
They want to be thorough. And in some cases, they might recommend genetic testing too. This helps to confirm the diagnosis and pinpoint the specific gene mutations involved, especially if there's a family history of the disease.
I have to say, learning about all these diagnostic tools, it's amazing, but I did hit a bit of a wall reading that no known treatment phrase in the research. Kind of a heavy feeling.
I get that. It's definitely a tough pill to swallow, but here's the silver lining. Understanding the WHY behind a disease, that's the first step towards finding solutions.
Unlocking that door, right. Okay, so with Stargardt, we know that ABCA4 gene is a major player.
Exactly. Think of ABCA4 like a set of blueprints for this tiny little garbage collector that works inside your eye, specifically clearing out waste products from those photoreceptor cells.
Okay, hold on. A tiny garbage collector in my eye. That's a new one. So when there's a mutation in this gene, does that mean the garbage collector just stops working?
Essentially, yeah. It's like the blueprints got messed up, so the garbage collector, which is actually a protein, it either doesn't get built right or it can't do its job properly.
And then all that waste, that lipofuscin we talked about, it just piles up.
Exactly. And it's not just clutter. That buildup becomes toxic to the photoreceptor cells. They start malfunctioning, eventually die off. And since those cells are sending visual information to your brain, well, that's when you get the vision loss.
Wow, okay. So even though there's no cure yet, knowing researchers are on this microscopic level, it does give some hope.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're right to be hopeful about the research you found. Gene therapy, for example, that's a really hot topic. Imagine correcting those faulty ABCA4 genes right at the source, inside the eye.
It's like sending in a microscopic repair crew. What else are scientists exploring?
Well, there are drug trials looking at meds that might slow down or even stop the progression. You were interested in metformin, right?
Yeah, it's fascinating because it's already used for diabetes. Why would it work for Stargardt's?
It's wild how these things connect, right? So metformin, besides regulating blood sugar, it seems to protect cells, including those photoreceptors. Researchers think it might reduce that toxic lipofuscin buildup even in people who already have Stargardt's.
Okay, so that's promising. And then there's stem cell therapy. Always sounds so futuristic.
It's definitely still early days for Stargardt's, but the potential is huge. The idea is stem cells can become different types of cells, right? So maybe we can use them to replace those damaged photoreceptor cells in the retina, kind of like hitting the refresh button.
It's like a whole orchestra of scientific possibilities. Out of all of this, what are you personally most excited about?
Ooh, that's tough. The progress across the board is amazing, but gene therapy really gets me going. Targeting the root cause of Stargardt's. At the genetic level, it feels like a whole new era of medicine.
The total game changer.
Exactly. And while those treatments are being studied, people with Stargardt's, they're not just waiting around. There are things they can do right now to manage the condition, maybe even slow it down.
Okay, so let's talk empowerment. What can people do to take control? Because I'm sure a diagnosis like this can feel overwhelming.
Knowledge is power, for sure. Lifestyle changes can make a big difference. Protecting your eyes from UV rays, sunglasses, and all that. Eating healthy, lots of antioxidants, limiting alcohol, all crucial, but especially with Stargardt's.
And I'm guessing smoking is a big no-no.
Huge no-no. Terrible for eye health in general, but even worse with a degenerative condition like this. And then there's the emotional side. We talked about that increased risk of depression and anxiety, therapy, support groups, those can be lifesavers. And lastly, vision rehabilitation programs.
So important. It's about adapting, not just accepting the vision loss.
Exactly. These programs teach people strategies to make the most of their remaining vision. Using assistive devices, making their environment more visually accessible, all about maximizing independence and quality of life.
It all comes back to treating the whole person. Well, we've covered a lot today, from those tiny gene mutations to the incredible strength of people living with Stargardts. If you could leave our listener with one last thought, what would it be?
Yep. I'd say this. Even though there's no cure today, there's so much hope on the horizon for Stargardt's disease. We're seeing how scientific understanding can lead to real breakthroughs that could change lives. So stay curious, keep learning, and never underestimate the power of research and the human spirit.
So there you have it. We dove deep into the world of Stargardt disease, the challenges, the complexities, and the hope that research brings. But here's a final thought for you to ponder. If scientists can repair or replace those faulty genes like ABCA4, what other genetic conditions might we target in the future? It's a question with endless possibilities. Keep asking those questions, and remember, just like healthy curiosity, the pursuit of knowledge never goes out of style.